Okay, how about that? Is that any better with the sound? Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Right, can you hear the sound? I think I've got the microphone on. Excellent. Good, good, good. Yeah, so I've got this fancy clip-on microphone and a battery. Also going to talk about how having a map is important today. I've got the Ordnance Survey map, but also we can talk about having a map in the Western Esoteric Initiatory System and why that's important as well. Yeah, hello everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I'm just going over the bridge. There's like these transitional points in a walk where you sort of go from one place to another, physically, metaphorically. Not quite sure how you get this wonderful stabilizer to actually point. We're not going to the cave today. I thought I'd test out the equipment first, and then we can we're just going to do a bit of a scenic walk today behind Applethwaite where I live, and so I can test the microphone. And also I need to check, we might do another stone circle next time, and I'll schedule that in advance because I'll know when I'm going, and we'll go and see another of the local stone circles. But I'm not sure about the reception where the cave is. The cave that I want to take us to, there's two. There's one down Borrowdale, one in the South Lakes, that both of which we've done rituals at. So the reason I'm slightly out of breath is because I'm heading up the slopes of Skiddaw. I got some local gardener's wisdom a few days ago, which if it grows on Skiddaw, it will grow in your garden. I thought that was quite interesting. The idea that things that are growing, being supported in the space that you are, gives an indication as to what you might be able to grow. I particularly like these sorts of natural altars. I usually make a little mandala or offering on those. Let's make one if we can. Doesn't have to be anything special, just something intentional. Need another stone. There you go, just something to make a map. I wonder if this is auto-focusing on things. It does seem to be choosing what it's showing us. So you can see this gate here marks the open fell. That's Skiddaw behind us, and Magick to the right. So we're going to go through here. This actually takes us out onto the fell. You can see the bracken, the ferns are in full swing at the moment. They'll all go brown very, very sort of too soon, really, soon enough. And we have the heather up on the mountain as well. Hey, thanks for the emoji. Yes, it works. That's the lit emoji. Wonderful. Got some foxglove out at the moment. So I brought a rucksack with me with a map and also some water, some sweets and a compass, because even on a little walk, if you trip or something and get stuck, or if the weather does suddenly change, you have to know about it, even on a low level walk. And this isn't a very well used path, as you can see. I'd be surprised if we see anyone, which is part of my reason for choosing this walk. It's one of these two local knowledge walks. Having said that, we'll probably walk around the corner and bump into a load of people. I can hear something calling. I don't know if we'll get to see Jeff today as well. The sparrowhawk that's probably a buzzard. I've misnowned him. I hope I've not misgendered him as well. Hello, Carol. Hello. So, yeah, and that's the scenery behind us. It's quite amazing. We're looking across to Ullock, that pike to the right, the one I call Screaming Hag. There's Bath to the right as well. It's a very strange device, this stabiliser. Has a mind of its own. So yeah, I was thinking while I was packing the map that I think it's quite important to mention that one of the big differences with the Western Esoteric Initiatory System that I teach, as I teach it and as I was taught, is that we have a map so that we know where we are, where we're going, and what might be ahead of us, so that we can prepare the right clothing, survival gear. That's not to say that we can't do it without a map. It is possible to get places without a map, but it's also possible to get very lost on the way. So the Western Esoteric System, the Kabbalah, the system of correspondences, it does all function as a map. And we all know the idea that the map is not territory, but there's other aspects to that. There's the fact that the map is never complete. You can make a map of the map. And there's a few other sayings. I think it was Laszlo that came up with the idea that the map is not the territory. But there are several other very useful sayings beyond that one, and again, that's something we like to do with the Western Esoteric Initiatory System, is actually find our sources, investigate them, go back to original Kabbalah, the history of tarot, the actual teachings of the Golden Dawn, early witchcraft, local folklore, just really trace things back, and if possible actually go and visit the places that have inspired Western esotericists like Egypt and so forth. Now, we have to keep an eye out, particularly for Charlotte Louise, who's dancing at a festival today, but this is where the path turns off, and it turns off up that groove that you can see there. So we've got to get onto that. We do that by turning left just up here somewhere. Now we can go all the way up, and you can go up that gill that you can see there. There's a stream that runs down that gill. Yeah, I would guess it is like a Newfoundland. Now I've just got to keep an eye out. You can see down there, where are we? Just down there, there's a little bit of a path that you can see, one path, and it cuts up the side of the hill there, and that is what we are aiming for. Oop. There we go. Oh, I see. Oh, I've just found the little joystick toggle. Sorry, wondered what was going on. There we go. There's actually a joystick. Aha! Now we're cooking. Brilliant. There we go. Haha. Right, sorry, boys and their toys. So, yeah, you can see the bracken here, and we're just going to drop down this path down here. You can barely see it's a path as the bracken's so overgrown, but you can see where we're heading for, just that bit of one path. So again, the nature of the Western Esoteric Initiatory System is that it is about grades, and the Latin for grades comes from the word gradus, or gradus, meaning step. So we have to take these steps in the right order. I don't know if you can hear the stream here, or if the wonderful dead cat on the microphone is muffling it out. And we have a little bridge here. Yeah, it's actually a walker's path. It's marked on the Ordnance Survey map, as we'll find out soon enough. But it's probably only the sheep and the deer that really use it. It's looking down over Herdwick and down to Derwent Water. Again, you can see Cat Bells, our local mountain there. Yeah, this water's drinkable. The running water's very drinkable. In fact, this beck used to serve the farmers down at Applethwaite where I live, and there's actually a dam as well on the way up. We can't get to it at the moment because the bracken is so overgrown, but when the bracken is gone, we can go and have a look at the dam. So now we're going to take a walk up here. Do apologise for the dongle moving around. Just trying to work out. There's I sort of came out in a bit of a rush while the weather was good. Not necessarily had time to look at all of the instructions for the gyroscopic dongle thing. Now this is where we have to be a bit careful because we've got a path that you can barely see going up here. And we have to find our way through the bracken and avoid deer ticks as well. I have to check my entire body for deer ticks when I get back. And we don't need much height to actually get a wonderful view over the lake. And that's Borrowdale Valley down at the end. It's also the wettest place in England on record. Down at the end of that valley on the other side of the lake, it's where the water from the lakes actually does come from. It's from the rain that we have. Oh, I'm just trying to fight my way through the bracken here. We gain a bit of height as we go up. The bracken's starting to turn on the edges. We have gone past Lunarsar now, Lammas. So you can see now, we can see Keswick. So that's the town there. Oh, get some swing there we go. You can actually see over the town now how close it is to the lake, and Lord's Island in the middle. Yeah, so it's really important that we do have a map, particularly when things have got overgrown through neglect of the proper study or focus of the Western Esoteric Initiatory System, and people become in phases too focused with evocations and invocations and grimoire magic, and there was a time when astral travel was all the rage, remote viewing, all sorts of things that distract us really from the real intent of the Western Esoteric Initiatory System. Yeah, I think I've got some jelly beans. It's best to have something with a lot of sugar in, unless you're diabetic, of course. But yeah, you can see these, got some really spiky ferns to my right here. Just need to be a bit careful. Oh, ouch. I'm a martyr for my art. So yeah, hopefully we're going to get up to see a nice set of witch trees and a witch stone. It's hidden up here. Oh, that's what I call them anyway. So you can join me on the path here. Oh well, I'm very, very glad to have you with me, and to know that the microphone is working when it's switched on. I'll be interested to hear the footage back. Not that I like the sound of my own voice, but to hear how much it muffles exterior sound with the dead cat on it. I didn't know that's what they were called, the weird little mufflers. It's called a dead cat. Right, okay, so we are almost at the top now of this little hill, and say it's a bit of a small hill. It's one of the foothills, but with just a little bit of height. I mean, how long has it taken us? About 20 minutes to get up here, and we've already now got the most incredible view over Derwent Water, Keswick, and you really get to see how green everything is. This is really the height of an English summer in the Lake District. I don't use a walking stick. I find they tend to get in the way. Not yet anyway. There may come a day when the world of my legs may fall, but it is not this day. That sort of thing. Oh, I should, whoops, almost fell over there. Should perhaps turn around and show you. So this is the path really up Skiddaw, up there, and it's a really long slog up there, a several hour slog. It is sort of worth it for the views, but it is just one hell of a slog up to the top of Skiddaw, and that's what you can see from Keswick. So I'm getting the hang of the little joystick now. Yeah, so thanks for bearing with me and helping me test it out. It's much appreciated. To be honest, I also wanted to come out somewhere quiet, not only to share it with you, but because I feel a bit of a idiot walking around with a collapsible selfie stick. And it's worth it for the views. Not the views of the video, but the actual views, real views. So we're just cresting around the corner of the hill now. So we're coming to the front of it. And now we can see what I'm interested in as finding, which is over here. Oops. There we go, as it opens back out to the fields, and you can see here as well, you can see a Herdwick sheep grazing there somewhere. There it is in the middle. That's the Herdwick are the local livestock, the sheep, and they are hefted, it's called. They're hefted to the fells. So they know which fell is theirs, they know where they are, they know where to go, and they stay in the particular area because they're sort of trained over generations to actually do it, and it's called hefting, or that the sheep are hefted. And so we've got the semi-wild bracken down at the bottom, and then we've got the agricultural band, and then of course we've got the actual wilder fells just up above as well. So we've got all of these bands. Yes, it is. I live in a small hamlet called Applethwaite, where they don't teach people camera work. There we go. And you can't see Applethwaite at the moment because it's down there, just below that bracken. So I'll just come up the hill behind my garden. And you can get the view of the mountains from my garden, but you can't get the view of the lake unless you come up about, it's like literally about 20 foot up. You need to come to get the whole view of the lake. So there's some houses just behind me and slightly up the hill that have got these remarkable balconies that just obviously look over the lake in the evening. I imagine that's very, very wonderful to relax in the evening and have that view. Unfortunately, most of the houses here and in Applethwaite, and particularly in Keswick, are second homes, holiday lets, guest houses, hotels, bed and breakfasts. Our local old people's home, one of the two in the town, was flooded in the big floods we had a few years ago, and that's been now replaced by a massive Premier Inn, which is basically for the Christian convention that we have every year, that's been running 150 years, and we get about 6,500 to 8,500 people in a town that really only supports about 6,500 locals. So you can imagine what that's like. I don't think anyone's been down this path for quite a while, because it's very, very overgrown with bracken. I don't know if you can hear me stumbling through it, but there's no reason that this is why when Charlotte was here and she came up the other way and then couldn't find this path leading back to the beck, and that's because it's sort of really hidden in the bracken. You can sort of see it once you're on it, but maybe not to find it. Got some nice wild flowers here, thistles. Usually get quite inspired to write naff pagan poetry when I'm up this way. I'll spare you that. So yeah, where were we? We were on the importance of having a graduated map, a way of looking at the world that we can get our bearings in, and more importantly that we have something that holds, or we hold to be congruent, consistent and comprehensive, so that we can actually map ourselves against something. The problem with a lot of occultists and spiritual people, my occult teacher once told me, heaven protect me from spiritual people, they're the worst. And I always thought he was cynical until I grew up a bit. But is that there's a lack sometimes of wanting to adhere to a map, that somehow that's a bad thing. And quite often, I don't know if you can see the swallows that are here at the moment, you can see them dashing across the camera there. That quite often, particularly if people are escaping religion, which is again not necessarily a good reason to become an occultist or a witch, that they then refuse to have any hierarchy, any order, any teaching, any expertise and so forth, and immediately declare themselves high priestess of the coven of Lady of the Stars. Which is not necessarily a bad thing in itself. Let me just try and catch the swallows here while I'm talking. They're beautiful. But there is some use and need of a map, I feel, particularly the way I teach things. And the Kabbalah and the Initiatory System is really our map of all of the grades that we have. So that we have something to roughly align ourselves to, and quite often I liken it to scaffolding as well, that we have a scaffold that allows us to climb and keeps us safe doing it. Charlotte once called it safety instructions for high altitude work. It's from a mental health point of view and from a psychological and spiritual point of view, that we have some set of instructions so that we don't, at least if we go off the rails, we sort of have some idea that we are going off the rails. Now hopefully we get to see some of our local Herdwicks. Hopefully they've come and say hello. Hello Herdwicks. Right, now the Yeah, unfortunately we've had that phenomenon here as well. I know it's really terrible in some places, particularly across the States, and we've had that very much here with influencers, which is why I didn't necessarily want to be seen carrying a selfie stick around. You see all of the swallows here. They've found a good place for insects. They're just enjoying their flights, really. And they bring tents, flammable tents, they leave the tents, they leave toilet blocks, they leave a load of rubbish, and they set fires as well. And when it's very dry as it is at the moment, even if we do have a lot of rain, when it does rain, it can be very, very dangerous. We've had quite a few fell fires, and that's the first time in a long time that we've ever had real fell fires here. So I love this row of trees. This is like a planted row of So we're going to go and, well, perhaps not disturb the sheep. Let's just take a look and see if we can walk by them without disturbing them. I was going to say hello, but I feel bad. They found a nice place. Oops, I can avoid. So these are usually hawthorn trees, a very, very witchy tree, a tree that's very good for protection. So quite often I'll take a bit of the wood from one of these trees. I'm just looking for the stone. It's about here somewhere. We'll find it in a moment. And again, mustn't forget the view down to the lake here. Yeah, so there is a sense that people reject maps, they reject authority because they are escaping to the occult from something. And I often say that successful and happy people never become occultists because there has to be something wrong with you, something broken, something untoward about your relationship to the world and our feeling of being out of place somehow, to make us look into the occult in the first place, into the spiritual. And so quite often it is in its first stages an escape, but that is really dangerous because when you're escaping something, you're not looking where you're going, and you refuse to see the things in front of you that are similar but different to the things that you're trying to escape from. And as a result, you make the same mistakes all over again, but just with a different skin on. As is it Nick Cave? There's a song or a line about new skin for old ceremonies, and sometimes it's a little bit like that people are just as bad in terms of what they're escaping from in their new yoga fashion or their new theosophy group or their new spiritual discussion group or new age group or whatever it might be. They are just as maniacal, just as self-righteous, just as unbending to new experience, unadaptable, all sorts of things that somehow they feel that they've escaped because it was in the system. But they forget that the system was just a map, and it was them that was doing the walk. It was them that was actually out doing the walk. So it doesn't matter if you have a different map, it just matters that you stick to it and test yourself with the map. This is sheep wisdom, the wisdom of the wool finders, and that, sorry, they're really having a good time, the swallows. And so it just recreates the cycle, it recreates the problematic behaviour, it recreates the lack of ability to just be in reality, take oneself less seriously perhaps. I've stood still and the swallows are just right around my head now. Hello swallows, have you got something to teach us? As Tony says, we are agile. That's what we have to be. We have to work together and find our place, yet each of us to our own. Yeah, so in the Western Esoteric Initiatory System that I teach, which I'll just keep referring to as the Western Esoteric Initiatory System, and a bit of hedge witchery, because it's good to be in the real world as well, the natural world. And we found our path now. Here's the path. It's important to have a system, I feel, and I'm not going to argue with anyone who doesn't feel that. That's fine. Everyone is entitled to their viewpoint as long as it's not taking my time or attention too much, at least. Yeah, it's important to have that map and not to get too bound up with it at the same time. It's a bit like the ability to cast a spell properly. Oh, I found our stone as well. So there's a little path off that we're just going to follow here. We can just vaguely see it, and it's going to lead us to our witch stone here. It's actually an old gatepost stone, but it's still got the hole in it, so it's very good to have these to hand. This is a good place for casting actual spells and actual magic. There we go. Thomas Rhymer. It's not something that rings a bell. Strangely enough, I was reading some of Arthur Edward Waite's poetry this morning, and one forgets how mystical, how fairy, and how fey and romantic and overly emotional gushing it is. Some of Waite's poetry. So quite often we'll find some magical implement here left for us. We've got a little, just there, that's caught in a spider's web. And it's really important to see the magic in everything, try and learn something, that it's only from where there's a struggle that you can see that there's a web. Perhaps it's the lesson of that when something is caught in something, that's when you can actually see. And perhaps in a wider sense, that is a struggle that we have. Sometimes we know that we're caught in something only because we're struggling with it. And this is also why I think questions are very important in my system. I'll call it my system for the time being. That I ask people to ask questions, because it's by questions that we know where we're struggling, where we are still not comprehensive, not consistent, not congruent to our lived experience. And the person who doesn't have any questions just hasn't thought of them, that's all. Because there are always questions, and this is where the grades come in on the Tree of Life and on our map, that we do have a sense of what questions people have at different stages, and not what the answers are, very important, not what the answers are, but what methods, what approaches, what new intelligence can give them those answers for themselves. And this is why we have a system by which we teach people methods, mainly to get us off the hook in terms of teaching and being responsible for people, but also to allow other people the methodology to experience it in themselves. And this is really where by our work we are changed comes from, and the worker is hidden in the workshop. There's a sense of that being yourself, that it is only by our work we are changed, and only we can know how we're changed and be true to ourselves, and that is why the worker is hidden in the workshop. And so that's a bit of an explanation of where those phrases come from. So anyone that's not in the membership group, we do have a special offer at the moment. We're giving away a deck for the cost of postage for anyone joining us in the membership group, the Actual Magicians Club. On YouTube, you can subscribe for a month. It's $4.99 at the minimum level, and if you do, you'll get the deck whether you then decide to cancel, which I hope you won't, but even if you do, you'll still receive the deck. And I'm sending out some last emails today later on about that, so that we can close that offer off and then get in touch with everyone through YouTube as we can, to get your details and arrange the postage cost, get your payment for the postage, and we'll get your deck sent out to you. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to getting those decks out, because again, it's like many things, I think it's really an important deck. I love the artwork of it, the symbolism, the history of it. It's a true Golden Dawn deck, and no one's interested. No one is interested other than the people we found here on the Actual Magician's bookshelf. So thank you for being interested in the things that I'm interested in. That's always validating. And I'm just going to take some of this wool for a bit of spell work. I'm always very keen of local wool here. Where is it? There we go. So I'm going to take some of this. Been left by the Herdwick for us. Oh, there's the dead cat. That's the dead cat, that's the wool. And we're just going to come down from this stone and have a look down the rest of the trees as well. The Hawthorne line. This is a very powerful line. You can see the mound as well that's been built here. Let's just see if we can tweak that around a bit. There we go. So these are all on a mound, and so this would have been built to provide protection before a lot of the stone walls went up. Yeah, I'm not sure why people are having any issues with the subscription. To be honest, it's more of an informational thing, because YouTube, even though they're pushing it at the moment, like having us on these boot camps and things, they haven't really made it easy for people to know what the difference is between subscription to a channel and membership of a channel. There are channels that are already, and have been long doing membership for a couple of years, but for some reason people don't seem to know that you can actually get benefits. And someone messaged me last week to say, oh, it was nice to see your free video because I thought you'd hidden everything behind a paywall. And that's really how people see YouTube in general, is that it's just free content made for free for entertainment and distraction, but it's actually also a platform for creators to, oh gosh, I sound like a shill for YouTube. Their boot camp's working. It's only been 3 sessions and I'm already singing the praises of YouTube as a platform for commercial streamers, content creators, artists. But yeah, there is both a lack of awareness and also a resistance, a little bit like we're talking about to, for example, the grade system in the Western Esoteric Initiatory System. And the abuse of the grade system is monstrous. People just basically wanting a ritual and a certificate in order to get their next grade. And that was prevalent in the Golden Dawn. Florence Farr complained to Yeats, of all people, W.B. Yeats the poet, that she couldn't stand to be teaching anymore because people were taking the rituals not in their robes. They were coming into the temple and taking their examinations, their knowledge lectures, their tests, not in robes. They were just dressed in everyday clothes. And Florence Farr was an excellent teacher. In fact, she went to India after she left the Golden Dawn and became a teacher, and that's where she died, is as a teacher in India. And do give it some time and attention if you do want to subscribe. That's as a member, and that's another problem. People think that they've subscribed to the channel because obviously there's a subscription button, but there's also a membership that YouTube referred to as having perk levels. And it's really difficult to, with a straight face, say, please subscribe, but then also pay in order to achieve perk levels. And that's why I was slightly tongue-in-cheek with doing the magical hats. Although I do love seeing everyone's magical hats. I'm looking forward to someone achieving a black hat, and then we're going to have stars on the black hat, a bit like the grading system in karate and also kung fu and so forth, where you have the dan system once you get to the black hat. And of course black hat is also connected with hacking as well, so I double like that. Yeah, the join button, yeah, you can join as an actual member and become an actual magician with the Actual Magician's Bookshelf. That's about the best way of saying it. Thank you, Ravensong. And that is a subscription, but it's the paid membership subscription and not the YouTube general subscription to a channel, which is obviously free. So, Kaz, we are in the Lake District. I'm up behind my house in Applethwaite, and that is Keswick. And Derwentwater, the lake there, is known as the Jewel of the North. To some extent, it's one of the northern areas of the Lake District. A lot of people, tourists, tend to come to the South Lakes, Coniston and Windermere, Ambleside, places like this, but we're up in the North Lakes. We're not quite as north as Carlisle and Penrith, which are sort of the northern end of the Lake District, but we're sort of in the upper north. And we used to have a local population of about 5,500, and we 25 years ago just had people coming up here to walk, to hike. They'd read the famous books by Alfred Wayright, who did all of the fells and did these wonderful quaint guidebooks. If you have a look at Alfred Wayright online, and he was a very typical northerner, dour northerner, English northerner, and he sketched beautiful sketches, loving sketches of all of the fells in the Lake District. So there's something called the Wainwrights, which is about 300 fells, mountain tops. I think they're all above 1,000 feet, and people sometimes aim to do all of the Wainwrights in their lifetime. My ex-wife Brina, she has done all of the Wainwrights, even the scary scrambles, as she puts it. And okay, Crystal, thank you for being with us, and enjoy the Healing Through Darkness retreat. Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Blessed be. Blessed be. Yeah, so you can walk all of the Wainwrights. They're not as dangerous as some mountain ranges. They're certainly not as dangerous as the ones in Scotland, the Isle of Skye and so forth. But they're to be taken seriously. And again, this is why we need a map, because sometimes people think that in occultism that the more dangerous things are like summoning demons or spirits and things like that, and it isn't. It's actually the sheer mundane distraction and self-absorption that some of these techniques can actually bring to people and keep them away from any spiritual progress at all. And that is the real danger. It's so mundane, so boring and so evil, and this is the way I think evil works. It works in the most boring, mundane, simple, under the radar ways that we barely even notice it or recognize it as being evil. And in that moment the soul is lost, really, once you go down a path that you think you're on. It's what in the Hermetica they talk about, the release as a teacher of the different grades, and the fact that you meet the you have to overcome the last ambush that lies in wait. For anyone who's watched the Last Temptation of Christ, the film, you'll recognize how that last ambush for the character, obviously Jesus, is played out in that. No spoilers if you haven't watched it, and don't give any in the chat, but there is a huge ambush that lies in wait, and that, I think, is the truth of the matter. It really gets to the heart of the matter, that sometimes we are very eager to think we're flying, but in fact we're just lying on the floor imagining it. And in the Western Esoteric Initiatory System, it is all about state change. It's all about your own internal relationship to truth, or with truth, and that's really all that is measured, countered, worked on and questioned. And that is why we need a map to help us have something to question that against. Oh, that's interesting about the Hawthorne. Thanks for that, Tony. And yeah, so I'm just going to see this gate has actually got a different form. Every single gate in the Lake District has a different way of opening and closing it and locking it. This we have to take off the entire stone. Oh, there we go. And then squeeze through. Oh, because it won't open fully at all, barely open at all. And then we put this whole loop back down over the stone here. I'm just going to have to put the microphone somewhere while I do that. Just give me 1 second. There we go. So that was the very straightforward mechanism for holding the gate post on. Okay, so we're going to head back down. Hello, Teresa. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Red Hat. Excellent. So yeah, I'm just out to walk, talking about the importance of having a spiritual map. I do have an Ordnance Survey map in my backpack. I should just briefly get it out to finish talking about the importance of having a map, but perhaps we don't need to do that. I could take the phone off the handle actually. If I just sit here on the grass, and then we can just close off for today. Let me just do this. I'm going to see if I can put my magic wall down and keep it. In fact, I'm going to bind that onto this stick here. And I'm going to... Now this is where I should have brought up the extra bits for the this little handle. It does have a sort of tripod. Now, sorry, I went silent there for a moment because I don't know if you can hear it, but all of the what's it called? It smells like coconut oil. What is this called? But it's popping. I don't know if you can hear it popping. Yeah, I'm not sure if the microphone would have picked that up, but it's popping. Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to get the popping sound of the... It's got bright yellow flowers, it's very spiky, and it smells like coconut, like... it actually always reminds me of... suntan lotion. What the hell is it called? I sort of know it immediately when it's got its flower on, but yeah. And I was just aiming to put the phone down and show you the map so we can see where we are, and then just briefly, as we finish up, talk about the importance of the map. And I do actually have a magnet for the microphone that I could just clip that on. I'm trying to hold too many things in my hands just at the moment. Right, just give me a moment and I shall just get out our map so we can take a look at that. I'm just going to put the microphone here. I'm just going to take the phone off for a second. That's actually on a... Sorry, that's actually on a magnet, so I can take that off. So it's going to wobble for a moment. What is it called? It's a very common name. It's something very, very obvious. In my head I keep thinking Yarrow, but it isn't Yarrow at all. It's nothing like Yarrow, but maybe the name sounds like that. Right, just give me one moment. So I'm going to try and work this. So yeah, it's always important to have a map. It's always important to have water, sustenance for where you're going, and to know roughly where you're going. So here's the Ordnance Survey map. Let's see if we can actually zoom out. There we go, that's better. Excellent. Thank you. And now we're just going to... There's the map. There's us. You can hear a pheasant in the distance. A ring-tailed pheasant. Sorry, ring-necked pheasant, not tailed, ring-necked. Getting it right. Surprised we haven't seen Jeff yet. It'd be delightful if I can introduce you to Jeff, my familiar, my local buzzard. I still think it's a sparrowhawk. Oh, there he is. There he is. Actually, you can see Jeff up there. I knew we'd see him. I don't know if you can quite make him out. Where is he? Oh, might have to stand up. He's just flying over the horizon there. He might come back because he sort of circles around the valley. Right, let's take a look then. So when we have a map, we can figure out not only where we are, but where we need to go. So here is Keswick. You can see that on the map there. And we can obviously look down at the lake that we are looking down onto. And you can see up here, just under where it says Applethwaite, you can see, where it says under Skiddaw, you can see Applethwaite. That's where I am. And we have come up, just up behind Applethwaite, and we are somewhere, let me just see if I can do this. I need to be actually holding the microphone properly, I guess. So where are we? There's Millbeck. Applethwaite is just over here then. There we go. So there's Applethwaite. So just there. Oops. Just here. And we have come up here and across here. And then we zigzag down and we actually come back down sort of here. So that's really where we've come. We've sort of come up this way, and then across here, and then we go down here. And this is where the dams are and so on. And that's Skiddaw, under Skiddaw, and then the mighty Skiddaw. You can see the summit of Skiddaw there. And you can see how those contour lines make a big ridge up to the top, and just how long a walk that is. So that's where we are, and that is the lake. And one of the main things I wanted to say just to close off, as we close off the hour, is that there is a big difference between that and that. That's a map. That's the thing that the map is mapping. And that is the big difference between Western Esoteric Initiatory System teaching and the actual experience of it. They are two totally related comparable things, but they are not the same thing. And that's partly why in the members only area I'm teaching some methods that you can experience for yourself, because it doesn't matter what you listen to, what you say, what you do. It is by our work that we are changed. And I will harp on until my dying day about that, because that's the main lesson I ever learnt with all of this stuff, is that it's by our work we are changed, and that is the most important thing. So thanks a lot, everyone, for your time. I was going to say for your attention to this matter, but that phrase has been given a new political tilt of late. So that's why it was in my head, I guess. So yeah, thank you just for being with me, for helping me test out the new little stand and so forth. And I hope that we've had something useful to discuss and to talk about in terms of the fact that we have a grade system, we have a hierarchy, we have a map, we have a structure, but that has no relationship to the work itself. And it doesn't matter if you skip from map to map to map, thinking that that's the work. It is never the work and will never be the work, and you're only doing yourself a disservice, and particularly if you're then teaching that to other people, or being distracted by it from actual work inside yourself, because as ever, the worker is hidden in the workshop. So again, thank you for being with me. It's been a pleasure. Have a good rest of your day, and I look forward to meeting you all on another walk and talk very soon. And for the Stone Circle one, for the Cave one, I'll schedule that in advance, because it'll probably be a few hours in advance, but it will still be somewhat in advance, because I've got to actually drive to those places. Okay, take care, everyone. Nice to see you all. Bye for now.